What is going on, guys? Mark here with Reaper Airsoft. Today this video is brought to you by Elite Force Frontline Resolution. Big shout out to those guys. This tutorial is going to cover the KAA Stoner from Classic Army, and today we're going to show you how to get rid of this wobbly, ugly piece of crap junk stock this thing comes from. Now I know the Aries variation has a stock adapter out there. I'm not sure if the Classic Army version does, but hopefully you guys should already have most of the pieces, if not all the stuff you need to do this stock swap. And we're going to go from this ugly thing to a Magpul or a crane stock, whatever you want, because you will have the ability to do that after this mod. Now there's a few things you're going to need, and first thing you're going to need is you're going to need the stock you want to run with a threaded buffer tube. And I'm not talking one of these things where the nut doesn't come off. I'm talking about a fully threaded buffer tube where you can take your sling plate and your stock nut off. Another thing you're going to need is a size 3 T-handle. That way you can take your stock adapter off. I'm not really sure what the other set screw Allen key is. I don't remember. I already got it out of this one, so I'm not going to show you. And then you're going to need a Dremel with a sanding bit on it. Now, we're not physically going to be touching the stock parts of this gun. There's going to be little to no change to these parts at all. You could probably get away without touching these at all if you want to, if you do it just right and you take your time. And we're going to show you exactly what we did just to do this swap. Now, the first thing you want to do is pull off the stock plate and the stock itself. So, I'm going to unscrew this, get this out of the way, set that there. We're going to release the stock by pushing the lever. If you guys don't already know, you push this lever, pull the stock down, and then it comes right off. I'm going to set this gun off to the side, that way we don't ruin it, don't have no issues with it. Just get it out of the way. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is take your set screw out of the bottom plate here, which I've already done, and pull this assembly off. Now, as most of you know, if you have this gun, you already know this thing. No matter how much you tighten down this set screw and this set screw, this piece still wobbles. Everything doesn't really click into place. And if you don't have these tightened down, the whole system wobbles, and then it's a pain in the butt to get where you want. So we're going to get rid of this. Set it aside just so you have it in case you ever wanted to go back to it for some god-awful reason. You still have it. We did do a couple modifications to this piece. You don't have to do this modification. We did it for stability and just to make sure what we do is secure in there no matter what. If you take your time doing this, you won't have an issue. You won't have to add extra holes. You won't have to tap. You can run just your single threaded piece with the same set screw you already have. Now, like I said, the idea is that we want this piece right here, not this nut. We want to take this buffer tube and we want to somehow magically make it fit in there. And as you can see, it really doesn't fit in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to remove your stock off of your buffer tube. Now you can use any buffer tube you want. Right now we're using a commercial spec buffer tube. They are a little bit larger, so whatever buffer tube you got to use, make sure your stock fits. You can run a mil spec buffer tube. If you're running a commercial stock, you're going to have a little bit of wobble. So for the customer that we did this for, we did a commercial buffer and then we did a mil spec buffer. That way he has the option of running whatever he wants no matter what, and it's a quick change. Now this tutorial is probably only going to take you like an hour to go through and do. If you take your time and do it right the first time, you won't have to go back and do it again the second time. Now, like I said, we're not going to be changing this at all, so you shouldn't have to change it all unless you screw up. But this is all we did. We took our Dremel with our sanding bit and we ground off the first three threads of our stock. You just take it down until you start seeing a silver. And what you're going to do is you're slowly going to grind it down, test fit it to see if it slips in. Once you start slipping in, and it starts getting in there, you can go around and you can start doing more of the threading. The idea is to remove enough of the threading that it slips in snugly and slips far enough in that you can secure it to the stock plate itself. Now there's a couple things you need to keep in mind when you do this. As you can see, there's no threadings here, and sometimes when you get down to the base here, there's not much metal left. So depending on how much metal's here, you may have to do the mod up top. You may have to drill the holes, and I'll show you here in a second what we're talking about. The all done, completed, and said version of it looks like this. You know, we've ground on most of the threads, if not all of them. I think there's maybe one still, partial one there. This edge is tapered a little bit smaller than the back half of it. That way when it starts in, you know, it's loose, but as you get back further and we push it in by hand, it's more of a compression fit than anything else. And as you can see, even with it compressed, it's still a tight fit. So depending on how much metal is left over when you're done, if there's nothing left over at the bottom here, because typically, like this one doesn't have the little, this one has the notches to the side, so it doesn't have the notch to the bottom. We have a little bit more metal to work with on this one. It's not as bad. We can secure one set screw to this one to hold it in place. We opted for 3 set screws, just to make sure that when this is in and it's cranked down, that it's done, it's good to go. Now, as you can see, there's still a little bit of silver showing. Don't worry about that. It's nothing a little paint touch-up won't fix. So once we get the set screws in, I'm going to cut them down. These have already been drilled and threaded. That way the set screws will go right in. I'll cut the set screws to length. We'll put them in, tighten them down. I won't crank them down because you got to remember, guys, this is pot metal. So if you have to drill these holes out and tap them, I believe we want within 8:30 seconds here. Be careful because you can snap the stock, and that's the idea, is to save the stock with little to no modification at all. This plate is probably one of the most expensive pieces that you would have to replace. 10 to 1 you have a buffer tube laying around. And I'm not talking one of these with the fake nuts on it that you can't take off. Because if you have to cut this off or you got to grind all this down, you're going to be there forever, and then this is not going to be enough material to fit to where you need it to be. So like I said, what we did is we ground it down, tapered it, that way when it's compressed on, it's on. And at this point, once you're set, and you have your set screw in there and everything's snug to your liking, you can take any stock you want. You can take the Magpul stocks, you can take the Crane stocks, you can take the basic LE stocks, slip them things on, and your gun will now have the options of a 6-position, 4-position, whatever stock buffer tube you put on there, you'll be able to put on really easy. Now, like I said, it's not time consuming, it's just a little bit of care. You don't want to go grind at it all at once. You want to make sure you work your way back. The idea of working your way back is if you take too much off up front and it's too loose, like if you take the first step, see how loose it is, take a little bit less as you go back, taper it. That way when you put it on, it is compression fit, and it's going to be on there good. There's, you know, it's not going to wobble on you. The set screws, like I said, we opted for 3 set screws just so it holds it in more snugly. And when you're all said and done, you can put it back on your Stoner. Where's that lever at? And you have an adjustable stock on your Stoner. Now, like I said, this setup, when done correctly, there's no big wobble to it. This is, I want to say, commercial stock, commercial Magpul stock. If you run a mil spec, it would be even tighter. So that we got a little bit of wobble here, but nothing too major. And it's all based off of what you want. I want to say this is the mil spec buffer with a commercial stock. The commercial stock, commercial buffers are actually over there. But this is the mil spec buffer with the commercial stock. If you don't know how to tell the difference, the commercials have a angled end. It's the easiest way to tell. The commercials are a little bit larger diameter. The mil spec's a little bit smaller diameter, so when you run a commercial with a mil spec, you get a little bit of wobble. You run a commercial with a commercial, and it's tight, it's snug, you don't have any issues. But that's it, guys. It's simple, it's easy. Like I said, the only thing you want to watch for is you don't take too much off. Now, if you do take too much off, you can, like I said, go through and tap the stock plate just to make sure you have a good secure locking point. But once it's all said and done, your stock plate is still untouched. The original stock piece is still brand new, basically, you know, or however used it was, it's still usable. So if you ever wanted to go back to this, since we didn't really change nothing here, you can slide this right back in, set the set screw back in, and you're good to go. But that is how you achieve your collapsible law enforcement standard AR platform stocks in your Classic Army Stoners. Now, if you guys have any questions, please hit them in the comments below. If you could, like, share, comment, subscribe. And as always, guys, call your hits.